Sweet hong-a-dorn. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy early Halloween. That's right, since the Halloween season is upon us, and the second FNaF 2 movie is coming soon on December 5th of this year, I suppose it makes sense to do a second look review of Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes, this is going to be like a second look, aka revisit edition review of the first FNaF movie, because I did cover this movie last year. And you know what? I figured since the franchise has been around for a good 11 years, if I'm correct, I guess it makes sense to take a... Sorry for the stuttering. I guess it makes sense to take a second look at this movie. Now, if you saw my review of this film last year, you probably know what to expect, but just in case you need a little bit of a recap, the producers of Megan and the Black Phone bring the terrifying horror game phenomenon to life as a blood-chilling film. Recently fired and depressed from work so that he can keep custody of his little sister, Mike agrees to take a position as a night security guard at the abandoned themed restaurant Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaria. But Mike soon discovers that the nothing at Freddy's is what it seems. Mike's nights at Freddy's will lead him to an unexplainable encounters with the supernatural and drag him to the black heart of an unspeakable nightmare. Okay, I promise I won't continue doing that voice throughout the entire video because I have a feeling I'm already giving you guys nightmares as it is. So basically, in a nutshell, Mike has to survive all 5 nights in an abandoned pizzeria joint while uncovering the mysteries of the 5 missing kids who, well, mysteriously vanished without a trace. Many years ago in the 80s, while looking after his little sister. And holy hot dang, after giving this movie its second look treatment, it is still one of the most amazing horror movies ever. I mean, I probably said this before in my original review, but there are so many things to like about this movie. It has a great story with a beginning, middle, and end. The casting choices are spot on perfectly, especially when you got freaky Matthew Lillard playing William Afton, which, spoiler alerts, he is the main villain, and a nice cameo appearance by Corey Kenshin, who plays the taxi driver. It does have some great practical puppet effects, since the Jim Henson comedy Creature Shop was involved in this movie. And most of all, there are like so many Easter eggs and references to everything related to Five Nights at Freddy's that I probably couldn't even bother keeping up. Especially when, I did mention one of the Easter eggs with the Corey Kenshin cameo, but if you look at the Pizzaria Wall of Fame, all the employees are basically cameos from other YouTubers like Dalko, 8-Bit Ryan, Razbalski, and well, and there's also a nice cameo appearance by MatPat at the diner scene, where the aunt is discussing how to make Mike look bad for his job. Okay, I know those are like more like YouTube cameos rather than Easter eggs, but you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna call them Easter eggs, no matter what. No matter what. And I probably said this before in my original review, but this movie does have quite an interesting history on how it took them a long time to get it made. Since I remember when James A. Janice was doing a kill count on the Banana Splits movie, Warner Brothers was going to eventually work on the FNaF movie, but the rights went to Blumhouse instead. Which, by the way, shoutouts to James A. Janice for not only covering the Banana Splits horror movie and Willy's Wonderland, but also when he covered the FNaF movie. Honestly, I think this is quite an enjoyable movie. And yes, I know that I didn't technically play every single FNaF game in a row. I have seen dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of FNaF videos to probably get the idea of what FNaF is all about. Heck, I remember that 2 years ago, Egan Tilfman made a little fan film called, Scooby-Doo, where are you? In Springtrap, which is obviously a Five Nights at Freddy's Scooby-Doo crossover fan film, which I might leave a link in the description down below for you guys to check out. Man, I think this is quite an amazing horror film. Yes, I will admit, I did get jump scared a few times in the movie, since there's like so many jump scares to expect from this movie. One of the things I also like about this movie is the designs of the animatronics themselves. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Carl the Cupcake. Yeah, I mentioned it several minutes ago that they were created by the Jim Henson Creature Shop. And man, did they do a bang-up job getting the likeness down absolutely spot on perfecto. And I could tell that they must have studied the video games a lot. Probably either playing the games themselves or at least watched dozens of videos on YouTube about Five Nights at Freddy's to probably get the idea. Which, to be fair, that is pretty understandable. It's always good to do some research on certain things. I actually remember when I remember when JB and Millie interviewed Matthew Lillard about his involvement with this movie, which is very interesting, by the way. I might leave a link to that in the description down below for you guys to check out as well. As well as James A. Janice doing a kill count on the FNaF movie. And I can honestly tell that Matthew Lillard probably had a good time working on this movie. And I think I said this before in my original review, but I'll say it again. Some of you might know Matthew Lillard a lot better as his role as Shaggy from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, Scooby-Doo 2002, and its sequel, Monsters Unleashed. Well, he has been in a few horror movies before during his career, like the first Scream movie, for example. And there was another movie he was in called 13 Ghosts. And no, not to be confused with Scooby-Doo not to be confused with the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I think Minty Comedic Arts did a top 10 facts video about 13 Ghosts, so I'll probably leave a link to that video down in the description below, so you guys will understand what I'm talking about, because I have a feeling you guys are already going into the comments. I have a feeling you guys are already going into the comments section feeling very confused, which I wouldn't blame you. And man, I gotta admit, the pizzeria itself really looks impressive. I mean, I know it's probably just a set, but still, in real life, it looks pretty phenomenal. You can tell that casting crew really made it look completely run down and abandoned for decades. I mean, 5 kids did possess these animatronics who went missing years ago, which is why the place is haunted. I mean, if I was able to work at a pizzeria with haunted killer animatronics, I probably wouldn't even last 3 seconds or more in there. Oh boy. You can really tell that the cast and crew really did their best with what they were giving. And yeah, maybe there were times where the acting does seem a little bit bland, but probably not too bland to make it awful. And I'm not saying that the movie is awful. It's still a great movie. I'm just saying that the cast and crew did their best to make this movie awesome. Which I totally respect that. Man, I honestly think Five Nights at Freddy's is still a fantastic movie. It kind of makes sense to talk about this movie during the Halloween season. And I don't think I think in my original review, I didn't do it for Halloween this year. I must have reviewed it probably sometime around maybe early 2024, maybe somewhere in between maybe somewhere between January to March or something. I don't know. You guys will probably have to remind me in the comments below. Oh, man. I still love the designs of these animatronic guys here. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And Carl the Cupcake. And there are times where you can tell that Mike Schmidt is really doing his best to look after his baby sister. He's the only family Abby's got left. Well, that and their awful aunt, who probably doesn't even care that much about them. But aside from that, Five Nights at Freddy's is still one of the greatest movies ever. And I'm still glad I was able to give it its second look review, because it deserved it. It kind of makes sense to do this since Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is coming soon on December 5th of this year. And yes, I already watched the trailer for it. So overall, I'll give this movie 5 Freddy Fazbear heads out of 5. Since that's how phenomenal this movie is. And man, even with this new filter I'm using, Freddy looks pretty freaky. Especially the eyes. Look at those dang eyes. Good luck sleeping tonight.